Looks like we're live.
Yep. Just waiting on a few more things here. Go. Go.
Todd and Rob in the afternoon.
Afternoon delight.
With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
I think it's more like Todd and Rob in the evening, but starting next week.
Well, on the west coast of the U.S., it's 5 o'clock. So
Yeah,
I guess
so
it's still the afternoon technically.
still somewhere. But
Yeah.
starting next week, I will be back. I'll be back in the States. So
Oh,
hopefully no
that's
more OBS glitches. Yeah.
and we'll go back to 3 o'clock.
Yep. Back to 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So we'll be
All
back
right.
in the afternoon for those of you that missed the afternoon streams, at least for the
Or
time.
the lunch hour streams on
Oh
the
yeah,
West Coast. Right.
that's true. So sorry about last week. I just I came down with something. It was just like a 24-hour. Ugh. And I think what it was, is I just hadn't been getting much sleep, and it just kind of caught up to me.
Well,
So,
Todd, I've been hearing that there's been a really high level of electromagnetic storms that have been hitting the Earth over the last couple weeks.
is that
And
supposedly affecting health?
it can affect your sleep, yeah, from what I gather. So it
Hmm.
could be causing some tossing and storms that erupted on the face of the sun that directed that energy right at the Earth. So I guess supposedly we're going to get hit by something in the southern hemisphere on Thursday sometime.
Oh.
So we'll see if there's power outages down there.
All right. Well, we will see. I'm getting on a jet plane Sunday morning my time, which is
Yeah,
Saturday afternoon your time and or evening
yeah,
or something like that.
yeah.
And flying to San Francisco, then into Chicago, and then the train to Michigan. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
funny? Anyway, a couple weeks here since we've been talking about podcasting, and you sent me over some commentary. So, word of mouth is no longer the primary way that people are discovering podcasts. Supposedly, who came up?
Church, even from Edison and the share beer and things like that, have been doing some deep diving on this as well. And I think if you have to really back up and you have to look at kind of like two factors here, and I think we can dive into the details of this.
Yep.
So there's a lot of sharing going on. There's a lot of people commenting about podcasts on social media and all sorts of things like that that are really very similar to word of mouth sharing. So I think, you know, we may have seen this trend go on for a while, but people maybe were misinterpreting um, word of mouth as, not including social media. So, I think it's a big thing. And then the other big one is this, perception, and to some degree, it's popping up in all the research um, that YouTube is considered to be a social media platform, which in my mind raises another bigger question is, podcasting kind of a social media type of a medium as well? I mean, is everything becoming kind of like social media right now, right? I don't know. It's just something to ponder, right? As we think about how people are finding content on like Instagram and TikTok and all of these shorts platforms, and how this is all kind of like podcasters are tapping into all this stuff to reach new audiences. So this is a topic that is a little bit shifted, but I don't think it's that much of a shift away from, you know, people individually sharing a podcast. I think that still goes on. I think that came up number 2.
Yeah, it's curious because yeah, I guess if you want to, if they're going to call YouTube a social media platform, then definitely a podcast is a social media platform, which kind of a weird. I don't really consider YouTube a place to engage someone socially. Um,
No, that's true. I mean, that's a good observation, Todd. I think that YouTube has not done a good job of making it kind of like a social media type of a platform, though. There's elements of it that are. I mean, comments come through and people talk back and forth. Like that happens on this show sometimes, right? But
yeah.
it mainly happens on Facebook, right? Which is truly a social media platform. So, but it, you know, I don't know. There's research that's coming out that's pointing in this direction. So I just wonder if just all online media is kind of converging on itself.
Well, the considering the interactions I have with the audience on here and in my, Geek News Central, the social interaction there is usually a lot less than what I get in someplace like Facebook or X. So, and I can't
Yeah.
remember the last time someone told me they discovered my show because of social media. Um, Again, the way the logarithm works on Facebook, it's very rare do I get exposed to anyone's content or anyone that I don't know already. Besides ads being thrown at me, and reels that really are, you know, usually stupid stuff, nothing of any consequence. A cow licking somebody's face or something dumb like that. Not necessarily a quote unquote. I don't get this urging need to go find this person and subscribe to their content.
Yeah. Well, it's like a separate consumption experience, just, separately, right? It's a 2 minutes or a minute long
Yeah.
content. And once you're done, you're moving on to the next thing, right?
And YouTube definitely
Yeah.
surfaces new content for me.
Sure.
I see that,
Yeah.
but sometimes it gets annoying and it's predictable. There's here in the Philippines, there's a pretty amazing ecosystem. You had asked me before we started if I had a vehicle here, and I don't. And public transportation and Uber like services are real popular here. But I've become interested in they have this, and most people that have never been to Asia probably have no idea what I'm referring to. But in the 90s, Suzuki had a series of vehicles that really 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder, very small powered, like 50 horsepower. And I always used to kind of laugh at these vehicles because they were, I guess the best word for them would be, um, you wouldn't want to get in a wreck with one. They're pretty
What,
small. They're pretty small. Like
so were they four-wheeled vehicles
yeah,
or
4-wheel
some of them on
vehicles,
3?
but maximum 4 people and little storage
Okay.
area. But what they've done is they cut them up in Japan and they ship them to the Philippines, and then very industrious people put the vehicles back together, upgrade them, lift them, paint them, modernize, accessorize them, and do everything except for, well, they go through the transmission and the top end of the motor, and then they're selling these things. They're selling them for like
Right.
$4,000, and they're wildly popular. And I'm thinking, if I come back again, this might be because I just need a putt-putt vehicle to get around. I don't need something to go very far, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I thought, yeah, these are kind of cute. And so I got to watching some videos on that. And of course, YouTube immediately started firing me all kinds of car videos and, stuff that I was like, okay, I was just watching this one channel. I don't need 82 channels of the same thing. So, YouTube is pretty predictable in that regard. If you seek something out, then it starts serving you like content. So I don't know.
Right.
I'm not watching podcasts on YouTube, so I'm not really being fed other podcasts.
But probably some of those shows look like maybe they're podcasts, right?
No,
Because the hosts
I don't
have a
watch people.
microphone or something.
I don't watch any of
No?
those shows on YouTube. If they're not on Apple Podcasts, I don't listen to them. I don't listen to shows that
Well,
look like a podcast on YouTube.
so what kind of shows do you watch on YouTube?
People that are out in the wilderness surviving series types of shows where people are living living their life. Whether it be, I used to be big into van life. I was watching those types of series before. Then I
Mhm.
was into the people that were sailing. So I wasn't necessarily watching interview shows or talking. There's probably maybe one that I watch on YouTube, but it's usually a short. And it's never their full length video because it's annoying. They'll start off and they'll do 2 minutes and then they'll promote some product or merch. So I don't
Are
watch
you
them very.
watching on your phone mainly, or are you
No,
watching on
no,
a big
TV
screen?
and TV. Never watch
Oh,
YouTube on my phone.
so you're watching shorts on your television?
Oh yeah, those are pop. Well, shorts being 2 or 3 minutes. So it's really it's not a
Right.
short per se, vertical short. It's just cuts, segments that someone has put up. But I never watch a full length.
Oh,
I never watch Rogan. I don't watch any of those. I've got more time to listen still than I do to watch. So,
uh, okay. Got it.
I can't spend hours and hours and hours in front of the TV.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. S So I guess what you're symbolizing to me is that there's a wide range of different experiences that
I'm
people
sure.
are having with content that's on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
There's other people that are, there's very, very huge numbers that I see for shows that are doing stuff just like we are here, Todd.
Yeah. I
It
don't
just
watch.
depends on what the topics are,
Yeah. To
really, at
me,
the end of the day.
it doesn't move fast enough for YouTube. I'm kind of a YouTube guy that I want to be in and out in 20 minutes. And I don't want to be watching 2 hour long or an hour and a half stuff on YouTube. I can listen to stuff that long, but I guess my internal logarithm, and everyone I'm sure is different.
Yeah, well, I think that's the big takeaway
Yeah,
here.
yeah. And if the pace, and I'm sure sometimes probably people become annoyed with the pace of this show. So, you know,
Well, if you compare this show to many of the shows that are up there, um, they're they're more visually stimulating, right? So, and I think that's the big distinguishing characteristic here is that really I see the most audience gravitating towards shows that have lots of like other visuals that pop up on the
oh, they're
screen.
running other clips or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So you have, a conversation that runs in a certain direction. And we could certainly do that with this show too,
Yeah,
but it's mainly done in like a tool like a StreamYard or something like that, where you bring up like a short video,
yeah,
or you bring up a still image, or you bring up something in the background and you're able to refer to it, or people draw on the screen,
yeah.
circle things and talk about things and things like that, which is a much more kind of visual production. Um,
But
and I
again,
I played around with that.
those are usually shows where there's 3 or 4 people in a studio somewhere. Very high
Mm,
end productions.
no, I mean I do it with my podcast tip show all the
Yeah, I
time.
do it with Geek News Central as well. So even with
So you
this
bring up
software,
like a
yeah, bring up a screen.
screen grab or something like
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
very.
that's all I'm talking about. I know a
You,
lot of people pre-produce
you can't
their
you know you can't
their
see it,
shows.
but I can do it right now. That's the only difference here is I don't have a feedback mechanism to show you, but I can bring
Yeah,
up, I can
sure.
bring up the screen, but boom, it's not a big deal.
Well,
Um,
it's a little bit more difficult because I mean, I do this live show that I've been doing for a while too, and it's not as easy as it is to do it in a post produced video, right? I mean, it's really easy to use like a video editor to just bring up, and just layer into the timeline in a video editor, kind of like a video overlay that will play. I just published one today that had video overlays and
the the ch-
other
the
other
challenge
screenshots.
is the copyright issue. They're so hardcore on any motion video whatsoever, interplayed in your content. The copyright strikes just come quicker than, you play anyone else's YouTube video, you play anyone else's content.
I
Um,
haven't seen that, Todd. I've been doing it for months now, and it's
then
not.
it hasn't caught up to you. If you're using other people's contents in and playing live video, do you play the audio at the same time that's in those videos?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's just
like
a
I yeah, like I played some videos that I got from Tesla in the most recent episode that I did about Tesla, that I grabbed off of their website and
yeah. You
o-
you've
o-
been
yeah,
lucky,
off of their press page.
and maybe they're not enforcing it, but I've seen
Yeah, I
so
think
many.
that's the key thing. It depends on what it is, how long you play it
Yeah.
to some degree. But I do think that the rules have changed.
Well, I've gotten strikes, even putting website images up before.
So when you say website images,
Just bringing
what
a
is that?
website up, bringing a news site up, bringing up, PC World or whatever. I've gotten
Or a screenshot? Is it,
yeah,
or a
I've
browser?
a browser of a website. I've gotten a copyright strike on those before.
Hmm.
I'm, and again, it doesn't happen all the time, but it all depends on if there's enforcement going on by those groups.
Yeah, I would imagine that's probably true, right? Yeah.
I've had
So
bigger issues with YouTube content, replaying someone else's YouTube content. Yeah, that's even more challenging. If I'm getting something off a news site, less impact. But if I'm playing someone else's YouTube video, bam, copyright strike.
yeah, I'll play like I I did this in a recent other video that I did. I played like maybe a minute from a TEDx talk and that
I'm surprised you
overlaid in the
haven't.
video.
Yeah,
No, I
I'm just surprised you haven't gotten copyright strikes on those.
mm-mm, no.
Hmm.
So not yeah. I've been doing it off and on for months, and I go through all of the checks, the copyright checks, the all that stuff. It comes up saying found no problems.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's kind of a hit and miss thing, Todd. I'm not sure it's an always thing, right? That happens. I think it depends on where it came from and who it is.
Yeah, that's probably the issue.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing's for sure is you don't want to show any Getty images in your videos at all. If there's an image on a website that has a Getty image on it,
Or
that's
you're talking about a superimposed
just if
kind
you
of
have, let's say you have a news website opened up and they've got a
mhm.
Getty image in there and you show that within your content, bam, that's almost an instant one.
So when you say show a Getty image,
Okay,
yeah,
so
so
if I
how
was
would they
bringing
know
up
it's a Getty image?
because it says Getty, it says the credit is Getty or AP or whoever in the image. And Getty is
Uh-huh.
hardcore on if you haven't licensed that image,
Right.
you can't use it in your content.
Mhm.
But that's more news type of stuff that I do. And I have so if I ever see on a web page that they have a
Mm.
Getty image, the credit is the Getty image, I don't load that page because
Mm.
it almost immediately within 24 hours, there's a copyright strike that you used imagery that you weren't licensed for,
When
and
was the last time that you got a copyright strike?
I don't. Well, again, I avoid it because I don't want
Okay, so you
copyright
wouldn't.
strikes.
Yeah, so if things have changed,
But
you probably
you
wouldn't
can't
know,
use a
right?
Getty image though, and if you put a Getty image up in your YouTube video, go ahead, try it. You know, you
Mhm.
know, good luck.
Well, Todd, if you haven't tried it in a long
It's
time,
not necessarily a long
maybe
time.
things have changed.
I don't
I
think
don't know.
so. You know,
Okay.
when Getty comes and sends me an email, wants $800 for an image in an image, and the image within the image was a Getty image, they're still being very aggressive.
Has that happened to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've
Oh,
had
it
to write a
has?
check in the past.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Got an image off a quote unquote place where there was it had a licensed image to use. And what it was there was an image within the image, and it was tiny. It was in it was in a frame. Basically,
Mhm.
it was a picture of a room, and in a frame was an image. The image in the frame was a Getty image, and I ended up
Mhm.
having to write a check over that
So when was that?
a couple years ago.
Do you remember? Oh, it was years ago.
No, I said a couple of years ago.
Oh, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're really tight on Geek News Central on what images we use to
Right.
ensure that we're. And again, that
Yeah.
was on the website, not necessarily on YouTube. So I avoid Getty like the
Oh,
plague.
so that copyright strike was based on the website, not your
Well, the
YouTube.
demand for money was because of the website, not because of YouTube. But I've gotten
Oh.
YouTube strikes because of imagery in the YouTube video.
Mhm. Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out exactly what's going on with that. And I have this perception that there's not a huge amount of transparency at YouTube about what they're doing with that.
And I'm going to just Google this. Can I use a Getty image in a YouTube video that is on a website being displayed?
It doesn't even need to be on a website, right? It can just be pulled up as a background image in
No, it
your.
says no, generally, you cannot use a Getty images in YouTube video or on a website being displayed without permission. So, yeah, they are. And even there's Quora, and even Getty has, yeah. So, you want to use Getty images, you got to have a Getty images. You got to have a
Yeah, I don't.
license.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever used a Getty image
Well,
for
you won't
anything.
know. Again, if you're showing a website and they have a image in there that
That's right. I
is,
don't show websites like you do, so I don't
oh,
show like news articles on a website.
yeah, right.
I don't do a news show.
But how do you
So
get around the music then that's in like the Tesla videos and stuff?
the ones that I've used don't have music in them.
Oh, okay.
Plus, I'm doing kind of the voiceover over the top of the
Oh,
videos while they're
yeah.
playing.
So some of that is, again, fair use is funny. And I'm just so leery of it, once you've had to write a couple of checks.
Oh yeah, I can totally understand that. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But I do think it's a moving landscape, and I don't I don't bring up browser based experiences on my videos. Here lately, I haven't been doing that much of that. I kind of create my own image
Oh,
and
yeah.
then I superimpose it.
I've gotten more strikes on my own content that's mine that they mistaken for somebody else's. I probably had to deal with maybe 100 of those. And it's
So,
usually old content on YouTube.
so what would that be?
They just
So you,
flag it and say, "Hey, at 3 minutes and 42 seconds to 4:10, you're using," and I go into it, and it's me talking, and it's just the algorithm made a mistake. So I can test it,
oh,
and it's cleared.
hmm,
So
hmm.
there's, it's always been a mistake that you rack up too many that are true ones, you can lose your channel, which is the advantage of podcasting. You you're not going to lose your channel.
Yeah.
Although
Well, that's true.
Spotify is being pretty heavy handed still.
Yeah,
Some
that's mainly on music,
It's
isn't it?
church. Anybody that's doing a church podcast, they're just getting hammered.
A
It's
church
church
podcast?
lately. That's been the latest. Yeah, because there's been hymnal music or something like that's being sung or something, and
Oh, it's still music
yeah,
then.
it's
Okay.
music. Yeah.
Okay.
So for those of you
Ah.
doing church podcasts, don't put any music in the content.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I suppose that could be the case. But if it's like it's interesting if it's a
Church
group
music,
of just people,
yeah,
just
church.
singing or something like
Oh,
that. That's
yeah, it's still
really?
still a copyright hit. There's stuff that's
That's
very,
interesting.
very, very, very old that is
Right.
not, but that's not what's being sung in churches these days. A lot of the stuff that's being sung in churches is modern day church music that is
Oh,
copyright and licensed. So
okay.
yeah, so and so that's what we've been seeing. And matter of fact, we've actually had some outreach by podcasters said, "Hey, how come I have this episode missing?" I said, "Well, we forwarded you your DMCA takedown, your copyright strike that you can appeal now, but we've seen no appeals having been overturned.
So are you seeing any takedowns like that coming out of Apple?
No, never.
That's interesting why Apple would be tolerant of it, but Spotify is not.
Well,
That's
they don't.
interesting.
They've been very clear. They don't want music in spoken word content.
Hmm. But Apple doesn't care.
Apple doesn't care. Well, I don't get them. I don't think I've ever gotten a DMCA. And maybe Apple sends it directly to the podcaster. I would assume that's if there was an issue. Maybe Ted can weigh in if he's listening. Um, Again, maybe they go direct because they have a direct relationship with the podcaster. So,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. So to kind of back up about this social media connection, I think in a lot of ways the more I think about it, the more I do think it makes sense because there's elements that have come into play here as social media has gotten bigger and more popular that just those pathways can be um, great ways for people to share,
oh yeah,
So it's just an augment of that word of mouth
people have gotten
concept.
smarter. They're doing shorts, they're doing clips, they're doing audio segments.
Yeah, and that's all on social media,
And we're
right?
having, we see the usage of our AI tool creating audio clips and video clips. It's
Hmm.
huge.
Yeah, and
You
then
know,
with YouTube adding the podcast playlist thing, that puts it right into that perceived to be social media of YouTube. So
yeah.
does would Spotify be considered to be a social media platform?
Uh, Again, I guess if you're going to call YouTube a social media platform, then Spotify is as well. Again, if there's anybody that's discovering stuff via those platforms, then you know, is that
Yeah,
really social or is that just an logarithm thing? I I don't
yeah,
care where they can't find the content. That's why I've always said I don't care where you watch or listen, long as you do. And if you're discovering us on YouTube, great. And if you're not, then
yeah.
I-
I think this opens up another layer of question is if you look at what YouTube's doing is that they're very focused on the episode level, right? In presenting to their users uh, just individual episodes, right? It's this whole concept of subscribing and following a series and stuff like that. Sure, it's built into the platform, but it's not the primary ideation around the algorithm. The
well,
algorithm is really focused on each individual video has to be a standalone
yeah, yeah.
experience.
But if I'm subscribed, It
Yeah, well,
they show me the
it's a
last
signal,
they
right?
have well, no, in my subscription list, I have the last 20 shows that I have watched, and those are at the top because they don't offer this is the thing, it's so bad about YouTube is if you subscribe to a lot of channels, you know, it's it's not by recent, except for those top 20. You have to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, F. Well, actually, they're not even alphabetical. You just have to find them in the list. Just ridiculous. They make it so hard.
Yeah, and I keep hearing more and more from the YouTube experts out there that that whole subscribe function doesn't really play into the algorithm that much anymore. They've kind of de-emphasized it.
Well, I very
So what
rarely
they
watch
want to
stuff
do
that
is,
I'm not subscribed to.
well, they would rather surface content to you that they know that you are more likely to
Well,
watch.
they suck then because like I say, I go into these rabbit holes and they just serve me up more shit of the same if I watch one thing that's out of my list. So for me,
Well, it,
it hasn't been a good experience on them surfacing new content.
yeah,
TikTok, on the other hand, is a completely different animal.
I mean, they're catering to what's best for YouTube, and what's best for YouTube is to surface videos that they know are catching fire, right? That are
Most of the
growing
stuff I see
rapidly,
has got
and
100 views, 200 views. There's nothing I see that has tens and thousands and millions of views. They don't surface I don't get that surfaced to me that is
oh, you
high
know, I
viewing content.
yeah, I do all the time.
Then you must not be subscribed to very much stuff.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's not a top priority for me to subscribe to things because I increasingly know it's not that important. So, I mean, I think a, a lot of the big kind of YouTube influencers are out there, and they're talking about how it's all about the thumbnail, it's all about the title, it's all about hooking people at the beginning of the content, holding on to their viewership,
Yeah.
right? And that's what the algorithm is really playing into now.
One, two,
And
three.
the whole factor of being a subscriber to a series is it's a signal to the algorithm, but it's increasingly becoming less of a driver, because I think the thinking that they're in is that if an individual video looks like it's going to do well, they will they will feature that to you if you happen to be a subscriber to it. But if it isn't doing really well, they're probably going to feature something else that is doing better,
I'm
right?
subscribed to 142 YouTube channels.
Yeah, I'm not sure on my end. Yeah, I'd have to pop open a browser
And not all
to
of
see.
those I watch, but I'm
Yeah,
subscribed to
I
them.
mean, it would be an interesting exercise for you just to kind of look at that list and remember it, and just think about how many shows on your wall actually came out of that subscriber
Well,
list.
I only spend time in the subscribe list. I don't spend
That's
time
all you
in it.
do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you pop into the subscribe list and then click on those to go to those
Yeah.
channels to
Yeah.
watch that
Yeah.
content.
Because every
Okay,
time I
well,
go to the homepage, they just serve me a bunch of crap.
okay. So you're using YouTube like a podcast app. So, but that's not what
But
a
again,
large number of
when I go
people
to the
are doing.
homepage, I don't get a good experience. I've been on the homepage before, and it, like I said, just recently I subscribed to that one channel on, them making these weird vehicles, and then, I was getting served. The end of that video showed me another one of those. I'm like, no, I don't want to see that, and I back
Mm.
out. I don't let it autoplay. I stop it before it starts. If I don't physically say I wanna watch this, I don't let them play.
So you watch a video and then you pop out and go back to your subscription
Right.
list.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's okay. That explains to me what your experience is and why it's different.
Well,
Yeah.
again, because I have such a horrible experience when I'm on the homepage or whatever
Mm.
they call.
Well, it's probably pretty confused about what you like.
Good, well, it shouldn't be. It knows what I'm subscribed to.
I know, but if that's not a key signal for it anymore,
Well, good.
then then what you watch off of your homepage is actually going to drive the algorithm
Yeah,
more
I
than
don't watch off the
yeah.
home. So,
Yeah. Well, that explains it then, Todd.
well,
So I was a little baffled by it, but that would explain why you're having the experience that you're having.
yeah. But it's on purpose because why do I want to watch stuff that I am not interested in? Why do I want serve something to me that I haven't specifically sought out?
Yeah, but that's the role that the algorithm is
Well,
trying to
that's
play.
great, but that's a waste of my time.
Okay.
Time is valuable. I don't need to be served some content that I didn't seek.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the algorithm, yeah, it's this game of algorithms back and forth.
If people just sit there and let YouTube serve them stuff, oh my God, sorry for you.
It's more of a lean back experience, right? I mean, so you have the option to just let it play the next video, or you watch the video that you want and then you scroll through your wall to find something looks interesting. And that's a signal to the algorithm of the types of things that you like to watch, and it
Yeah,
will deliver to you more of that.
yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
seek specific content. I don't.
Yeah.
That's just difference.
Well, and that's how most podcast consumers consume podcasts in the podcast apps too. It's
Yeah.
very series driven. It's not episode driven. And I do wonder if that's what we're going to see come to Spotify and come to Apple at some point is more of a drive towards episode level, not series level.
You're gonna laugh. Hassa Films said in chat nearly 8,000 subscriptions for me. He said, and nearly the bell for many of them. You must be getting ding, 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 ding all day. Wow, 8,000. That's
Yeah,
an
that's a lot.
impressive number.
That's a lot. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, how do you know? I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Well,
delete stuff all the time.
yeah, I thought that I was like this unusual character that had, I think at one point I had like 128 podcast subscriptions in my Apple Podcast app,
No,
and I thought I was crazy.
my Apple Podcast app is pretty insane. You know,
Is it?
yeah, it's pretty
So
insane.
how many subscriptions do you have or follows now? I guess in the Apple
Uh,
Podcast app.
I probably have 100,
Yeah, yeah, I've had that for
but I've
years.
also got 10 that are on another app. I do my reviews via another app, so I can remove them and add them real easy. So the 10 I add and subtract all the time are on a separate app. So I use that
Yeah.
app specifically for. I scratched myself in the forehead. I'm looking red. I look like I got punched in the face. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation
here's the
because
thing
of
though, Rob.
how people are.
You are so ingrained in what's going on YouTube. You're losing touch on what's going on in the rest of the podcast space.
Well, fill me in, Todd, if I'm so out of touch.
Have you listened to the Podcasting 2.0 show or any of
Oh,
that stuff recently?
not here in the last week.
Oh,
No, I
okay.
haven't.
I'm just wondering if you're, doing anything outside of YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I've got 3 podcasts that
Yeah,
are audio.
but they're all your primary focus is on YouTube. Are you pushing Apple Podcast or any other subscription method?
I don't I don't really push that hard on social media for all that stuff actually. I mean, for me creating content right now is not a really big area from the standpoint of trying to grow a huge show. I think my approach to it right now is probably not the best approach.
So
So
you're
I'm
doing
actually
you're chasing the logarithm. You're trying to get a hit.
no, I'm just trying to try all sorts of different
Uh,
formats, try all sorts of different ways of doing this stuff. If it's like on YouTube, I'm currently doing probably 6 different shows that have different formats and different ways of presenting comment or content, and then some of those shows are taken out as audio podcasts, and some of them are taken out as audio and video podcasts. So just playing around, but I think I'm going to be changing that. I think I'm going to be kind of cutting back and maybe trying to launch maybe a new show that's maybe and only have one show or two, like this one and maybe one more,
Yeah.
and that's it. Because I think I've tested the limits on lots of different formats and trying to learn YouTube, but yet, I kind of feel like I understand podcasting. I'm not like a Luddite on podcasting all of a sudden. So I've only been doing it for 20 years. And so what I did want to learn was what was happening on the social media side of
Yeah.
content. So that's also where I've been really focused on is doing more with shorts and doing more with different types of content. So not just doing the same thing.
Yeah. You've got the luxury of having time to be able to do
Well,
all this.
I don't know if time is time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all have the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, some of us have more time than others.
well, it's just where you're spending your time
Yeah.
is what it comes
Yeah.
down to, right? So,
So, by the way, if anyone is in need of a little extra bandwidth,
bandwidth.
we overestimated how much bandwidth we needed, and so I've got a few petabytes I'd like to sell between now and July. So,
So how would you do such a thing, Todd? Sell petabytes? I'm not quite sure how that works.
it's easy. You want a great deal on some bandwidth. I'll send you some bandwidth at below retail
So are you like
or
a
below
CDN
wholesale.
now? Is that what you are now,
No,
Todd?
it's just what we did is, our one of the team members that's no longer with us signed, we had a 3-year contract with the CDN.
Oh,
And, based on X amount of projected growth and overdid it a little bit. So I basically have more bandwidth. You still pay for it, no matter what. It's, it was in the budget to pay for it, but I've got use it or lose it.
so how would you sell it?
Basically, anybody comes to me and says, "Hey, and we'd make you a bucket. You can drop stuff in and connect it to, map a subdomain and serve media from it at
Oh,
and then
okay. It's still coming off of your infrastructure then,
yeah, it's coming off of CloudFront.
right?
Yeah. So, but basically, you can, we'll make it easy for you. And I sell it by the petabyte. So I've got a few petabytes to sell.
So wouldn't that be kind of a temporary deal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It would be,
Okay.
but I'm gonna give someone if someone is paying a, I'm not gonna announce the price on this
Yeah.
this live stream, but I'm gonna give you a price that you're not gonna get anywhere else. You save some money.
So what would a a potential candidate for that? I
A
mean,
big show or a network. Another podcasting host. It really runs so it runs the other way too. If you're
mhm.
overcommitted, depends on your contract. So it's a short term issue, and it's in basic what it is that you get billed every month for what you use, and then at the end of your contract year, whatever you didn't use, you have a lump sum
Mhm.
payment that you have to make. We would have paid for that if we'd been
Right.
using all the bandwidth month to month, except that bill's going to come due on July 31st. So yeah,
So would they, let's say a network came to you and the network was working with, you know, um,
they can use it whatever,
Buzzsprout or
how,
something, or
however they want to,
Spreaker.
however they want to use it. Yeah, but you just have to use that media URL, and we'll leave it up. It's not
Mhm.
but you just use a new media URL for your delivery.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So
for
in a
that.
lot of ways, it's like still hosting your media on your platform,
Yeah,
right?
it's not on our platform. It's on CloudFront.
Oh,
Yeah, so they would.
which okay,
Yeah, and we
which
use
is
CloudFront for
where
all of our
your
content.
platform.
Yeah,
Right, right.
and
So
we're
it's the
like
same thing.
90% of the rest of the folks are using, or 80% are on CloudFront.
Got it.
Yeah.
Hmm, okay. Yeah,
And
so
I'm
you
in,
would
contract renegotiation at this moment too. So of course now I'm gonna have a lower commit for for the coming year, so that
mhm.
I don't overspend. So it's or overcommit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to always know precisely what your
Well,
usage is gonna be,
you
right?
kind of do a thumb in the, you do a little bit of a little bit of this, and you try to make sure you get the best because you're trying to get the lowest rate you possibly can get, and so you'd go with the biggest number you think you're going to move, and whatever growth that includes. And sometimes, this is the first time we've ever overshot, so I'm not going to complain too much. But yeah, if someone wants some bandwidth, I got a deal for them. Sub penny per gig.
Yeah. Yeah, Todd, I saw this, chart, it's in the outline that I share with you, and
Yeah.
it's basically, if you scroll down the page a little bit, it's after
Oh, talking
what
about this pods thing.
no, no, the one above it, the chart above it,
Yeah.
it says, "When listening to a new show, how long do you, um, how long do you
Give it to hook
give
you.
it to hook you in before you give up on it?"
Oh,
And it's an interesting, it's like, so let's say you're listening to a new episode. How long do you listen to that new episode before you bail? Right?
well,
Stop
people are.
listening. What's the percentage of the audience?
Well, that's a pretty big percentage that people give you 40% for up to
In
15 minutes.
2024 versus in 2020, it was 29%.
Yeah. So people are a little more
So,
patient here.
um,
So in
was that
2024, 40% of people give you up to 15 minutes to make an impression.
right?
One full
And
episode is 29%. That's pretty good. That's pretty good percentages.
yeah, but the one below it is 5 minutes or less. Um, 27% in 2020, 17%. That's interesting. It's hard to kind of pull out of this what this means to some degree. Um, yeah. So fewer people are judging a podcast
Yeah.
based on 5 minutes or less. Is that what that means from 2020
Yeah,
to
it means
2024?
that in
Right.
2020 you didn't get as people weren't patient. So people are more patient now.
Mm,
So these are good numbers. That's actually encouraging.
yeah. And then 11%, two full episodes. It's about the
That's
same
that's
from
in, that's in,
2020.
that's incredible. That's actually higher than I would have ever thought. I give shows
And
about 10 minutes. That's really kind of my rule of thumb
yeah,
is because I'm still listening to a lot of new shows. 10 minutes is is my make or break point.
I
That's one
remember. Oh, go ahead, Todd.
that's one of the reasons
Sure.
why I changed up the format of my tech show that I do my opening lead article immediately and spend 2 or 3 minutes on that and then jump into the intro and then get back to the content.
Mhm.
So, the first 2 or 3 minutes is actually the lead article for the show. So I'm into the lead article within 40 seconds of starting the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too from the standpoint of in the earlier years of podcasting and even YouTube, I kept hearing that you weren't going to get anybody to watch your video if it was longer than 5 minutes, right? I'm sure you remember that
Yeah.
too. I mean, that was the big talk about online videos that you can't do anything longer than 5 minutes because nobody's going to pay attention to it, right? So, but you contrast this with I'm sure is only audio, and it's the patience is definitely significantly higher, and it's also if you look at the the video watching patterns, what's the drop off of people that start a video and how long do they typically continue
They
watching?
think you're successful if you keep people for 60 seconds, which I think is
Yeah,
insane.
I mean it is. I mean, I see it in my own videos. It's almost, I mean, there's a lot of videos that kind of fall off an audience like falling off a cliff.
It shows you
As it
how in
tracks on that timeline.
it shows you
Right.
how people on YouTube are less patient. I'm the same way. On
Yeah.
YouTube, if the pace is not quick enough, if the person is talking slower
Yeah, or
and
they
not
haven't
getting
hooked
to
you at the beginning of it,
well,
right?
they're not getting to the point.
Right.
Some of these folks, it's just like, come on, this
Yeah.
doesn't take 15 minutes. This should take 10 minutes.
Right.
And whatever
Or
reason they're trying to keep you longer.
or yeah. Oh, you mean the total content or just the tease part at the beginning?
Everything. It's just like, come on, let's get going here. And it's these AI ones are horrible. They're dragging you on and repeating. And
Oh, yeah.
so,
Yeah,
we've made it trying to make a goal of most of our
I'm
YouTube
seeing
stuff to be like 5 minutes.
I'm seeing so much AI
It's
video
horrible.
content now.
Really
I don't think,
bad.
well, Todd, I think it depends on how you look at it. I mean, I think that there's a lot of people watching it.
Well, then
Um,
it oh, it's amazing that they are watching it then because I think it's just horrible.
what about it's horrible? Just curious.
Static image and someone talking.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm talking about videos. AI videos is what I'm
Oh,
asked
I'm
about.
not seeing any AI videos. I don't think I've ever seen an AI video.
Yeah, I see them on shorts
Well,
all day
maybe
long.
shorts, but
No, but that's what I'm talking about.
I don't watch shorts on YouTube.
Well, I think they're coming everywhere now. It's these kind of graphic,
But it says
not
guess.
not gr- not graphic from a content perspective, but just kind of like cartoonish type of videos
Oh
that are
yeah,
silly, right?
I don't have time for that BS.
No, but yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about
yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
seeing out there on these platforms is that it's being. I, I think there's a huge movement on content creators right now, moving into AI created content. And I did hear that there was a new podcast. I think it was talked about in Pod News today. That I think it was done. I can't remember what company it was, but it was a larger media company that was doing all of doing a podcast that has an AI
Co-host.
um, co-host and a real person host.
Mm.
So, and this kind of stuff is becoming more common.
I think it's a cute trick, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I think I think the younger generation enjoys it more than the older generation.
I just get I hear that monotone, and
No,
it's
I'm not
just
talking about audio. I'm talking about videos.
I'm talking
Uh,
about videos too on YouTube,
oh, you are.
but it's
Okay.
just an image. They show an image of something, and then the person's talking, and it's got that same. Yeah, it just to me it churns my
No,
stomach.
it's full motion movie like videos is what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that is more than a minute long that uses full motion video for AI. Everything else is
No, I'm not
static
saying
images.
it's longer than a minute. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's just full motion
But again,
videos.
I'm not watching shorts on YouTube either. So when I refer to shorts, that's like 3 minutes,
Well,
3 or 4 minutes.
well, it's
So
up to 3 minutes, so it can be any length that you want, up to
okay,
3 minutes.
yeah. But
Right.
if I see, usually I see stuff like that, I'm out.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Did you hear in the news that Podex, the company out of Europe, or the Swedish company acquired Lemonade Media?
Yeah,
That was
isn't that
there's a
like
lot of activity.
their
What?
second
Oh,
sale in recent months, or weren't they bought last year or something? Isn't this?
Oh, you're talking about Lemonade or you're talking about
Yeah,
Podex?
yeah. They changed hands a couple of times. I can't remember.
What what I can't remember either.
Yeah.
But I know that Podex Group has been on a buying spree in Europe for like the last 3 years or 4 years. So they're going around buying up,
Content
production
houses.
studios.
Yeah.
So that's gonna wind up being a big content company someday.
Well, it sounds like they already are. They're buying up a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff.
Well, right. I mean, I think they paid, at least the rumor is that they paid 30 million for Lemonade.
How many shows did they have? In-house
Um,
shows.
don't have that, but I know that they have some
That's a
pretty big
big
shows.
that's a big number.
Like I think Julia Dreyfus, I think, does her show on their platform on their network.
How many shows does Lemonade Media, right? Have?
So PodX merged its 3 UK companies together. I guess they brought them under the umbrella. So they're basically doing a roll up of of content creation
Let's see here.
companies.
Dylan Mulvaney's on there. When it clicked, pantsuit politics. Oh, yeah, let me look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of LGBT, it looks like, on their network. 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 40, 50, 55, 60. Oh, quite a few. Like 70 shows or more.
Yeah.
So, it looks like a pretty good diversity of shows. Yeah. Most of these I'm not familiar with. Add to cart after 1954. As Me with Sinead. Ask Eliza Anything. Attitude, Being Golden, Being Trans. Believe Her. Blind P. Boneheads. Burnout. Call Decline. Choice Words. Confessions of a Female Founder. Discarded. Everything Happens. Fail Better. And most of these shows I've never heard of before. They must be doing
Well,
well.
yeah. Yeah, I tried to get the CEO of Lemonade Media on the New Media show on stage once, and she was traveling that day. So
The only show that I know here is Side Hustle School. I know that one.
hmm
Yeah.
oh, the company I was talking about that had the AI kind of co-host
Yeah.
and a real person as the other co-host was a podcast being done by Hacker News, I guess. It was on Pod News.
Well, there's been a number of shows that are being AI produced that I'm aware of. They're completely automated.
Yeah.
So Hacker News has one that has a co-host says, I had played with it, it was early, trying to get ChatGPT to respond to something when I was recording a podcast, but I just didn't have everything wired up right. And it was just taking too long. Of course, you can't do anything like that live because you have to wait for the response. So I'm sure it's spliced together.
Well, I'm sure you could do it live. I
Uh,
could do a live chat with Chat GPT on my show
you
if I
think
wanted
that you
to.
think the timing would be fast enough?
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah.
Hmm.
I should try it. I should try it sometime.
Yeah, you can make pod news if you do that.
I don't- yeah. Though I think you probably have to be careful what questions you prompt it with because it could.
Especially if you're live.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to be careful probably
Yeah.
so it doesn't disclose anything from its memory about its co-host.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty impressed with Sora. Sora is Sora's knocking out of the ballpark and creating static images. And that's all I'm really using it for. It's
Oh, you are? Oh, so is Sora built into the 4.0? Um,
I here's the deal. I'm still paying for the $200 version of
oh, you
ChatGPT.
are? Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that gives me access to Sora. So they got this new thing called Operator too. I don't even know what that is. Haven't played with that, but um,
Oh, Todd,
what were you gonna say?
I I found something in Pod News that I think is it's a little bit amusing.
Oh,
Um, yeah, you know Eric Newsom,
yeah, I know
who
Eric.
used to work for Audible
Yep.
and has been in podcasting for a long time. I
Yeah.
guess he published something in his latest newsletter, and it suggested that podcasting has fundamentally changed in the last several years.
Oh, yeah. I think I
He-
saw this.
And his contention is that it's kind of splitting between chat casts and story casts. Todd, it's a new phenomenon. It kind of makes me laugh
Yeah.
because isn't that what podcasting has been? If you go back even to the early years,
Well,
it's always been
Isn't it
chat
more?
casts and story
Isn't
casts.
it
It's always
more?
been that way.
Storycasts are pretty. That's pretty broad. I, yeah.
Well, I mean, he's coming from a background with Audible, right?
Yeah.
So this whole kind of telling a linear story or, like Serial
Right.
or
Right. Right.
he's coming out of that public radio background and all that kind of stuff like that. So I think he just has a little bit of rose-colored glasses on to what the medium has been about. Um, I think the podcast medium has always really primarily been about chatcasts.
Yeah. Well, so Geek
It's only been
Essentials a
more
chat cast,
right. It's only been more recently
but I
that it's
call it a
been
news show, not a chat cast.
right, right. And so you could say it's a story
And
cast,
this
Todd.
is definitely a chat cast.
It is
Although we
right,
tell stories.
yeah. But this concept of story casts as being something
It's new.
that's new. I have a hard time
I
thinking
just
of it
but
that
I
way.
don't like those. I those two specific titles are just. It's almost like Leo Laporte going back to the old days where
Oh, to netcast?
yeah,
Yeah,
netcast. Come on, let's
yeah,
so
yeah. It seems like this. It's basically a distinction that really isn't very important to highlight.
yeah because well if you think about true crime, those are definitely stories.
Yeah,
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 entertainment
exactly.
shows are probably chat. And again, it's how
But
do
those have been
you?
around.
Yeah,
I mean, I featured on the Zune platform the We're Alive audio drama series as a
yeah.
podcast back in 2009, and there were shows that were being produced that were stories.
What was it? The Adventures of. Oh my God! It was highly produced.
Well, Dan Dan Carlin is another one.
Yeah,
That's a story cast of sorts, but that's been around for
yeah.
15 years. Unless he's thinking that somehow that the medium is evenly split between chat casts and story casts, which I don't think it is. Um, but maybe it is. Is that what's fundamentally changed? Is just
No, I don't
the
think
size
things.
of the story cast part?
It's defining it, but we've been this way since the beginning. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, it's interesting perspective on that. And
What do you think of these new earbuds that are coming out?
oh, the pod pods.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to pull that up on the screen? But
Yeah, I can. And to me, it's like
Well, I
a
mean, it's
product that is really probably not needed.
well, it's an interesting device because it merges the visual with the audio in a yeah, I don't know if you saw the capability of this thing, Todd, but
Yeah, but again,
it's
I
got a
can.
color e-ink screen on the side of it. So you can actually see the show notes, you can see the cover art, all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's not that much different
it's
than
got
my
Chinese on it, so it's definitely being built
well,
by someone
yeah.
out
Uh,
of Taiwan or
and
China, one of the two.
well, the designer is Japanese, I guess.
Oh,
So I don't know
so
if he would
yeah, so if it's kanji, I'm looking
he
at
would
the Pinterest pictures.
take offense with that, Todd.
No, I'm not. It's like the
No,
reason
no, I
I'm.
said he would.
Oh, if
Right.
again, it's. I didn't
Yeah,
know
the
if.
Japanese and the Chinese don't
Yeah,
typically like
yeah,
each other that
yeah.
much, do they?
But
Yeah.
it's an interesting device. And it's
Yeah,
surprising
it's
it's coming out of the Japanese market then.
yeah. Well, maybe it's not being made
Well,
in i- in Japan, but who
well,
knows?
who knows? It's interesting. Well, it comes with an accessory that has a speaker too.
Yeah. And a and an e-ink color e-ink screen.
Yeah. But
That
you can fast forward 15 seconds, you can stop, you can advance, you can
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that takes me back to the early days of my web talk radio show that I did because I featured the CEO of e-ink tech back in I think it was like 2003.
Yeah, how much is this gonna cost?
Yeah.
Let me
I
look, see
thought
if
it
I can
would be
find a
this
price.
game-changing technology to be able to show,
It
electronic ink on paper.
of course he's not supporting chapters. Yeah, what's the price on this? Yeah, it doesn't say.
Yeah, it's not actually able to be purchased.
Oh, is this just a
It's still a
CGI
development
at this
product.
point?
No, it's a prototype
Oh yeah.
development product.
Pod
So
Pods is what it's called.
it's at yankodesign.com has
Yeah.
a
I'll
article.
put a link in the show notes. Yeah, interesting. It's but again, if you've got earbuds in and there's lots of functions you can do with earbuds as well and playback, but this is definitely audiobook or podcast specific.
Hmm.
And seeing that Japan has not had such a huge podcast surgence like other places,
Yeah,
it's curious this product is coming out of Japan.
it is interesting. And I guess Google's Notebook LM has rolled out, I guess, over 50 languages on their AI hosted podcasts. So
Hmm.
there you go, Todd. So I'm not sure how that would work. If would you have to create a separate RSS feed for each of the languages?
Yep. But the challenge really there is
That's good for
again,
business, though,
they
Todd,
they
isn't it?
would they would not they would not I don't think you can supply it a transcript and it will I don't know, I haven't used this in a while. Can you create a transcript and have it play it back? I thought it was all about giving a subject and it creates content on its own.
Yeah, it probably creates the content on its own in over 50 languages.
What would be interesting in that regard is if you could take it and feed it this show with Todd Rob, Todd Rod, Todd Rob is, indicating the switch in speakers and then let it create something in Spanish or something from a transcript. That might be kind of but the problem is that the pacing won't be so the pacing would be good. It might be interesting. I think the folks over 11 Labs are probably doing a better job in this regard because you can record your voice, train it, provide it the transcript, and you will get an output in a different language.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think 11 Labs is probably more set to do cool stuff like that. And then you have to figure out how good the accuracy is, and will it annoy those forms. I think they'll put up with more if you have a disclosure here. Hey, this has been automatically generated. It may get some translations wrong. We apologize in advance. I think if you could
Mm-hmm.
pick it up.
Though, isn't it technically possible to dynamically replace the audio in an RSS feed to a localized version through dynamic ad insertion technologies?
Oh, you could, depending on the IP origin point, sure, you could serve a different version. But if the people
Yeah.
are expecting from it, imagine me being here like I am right now, and then requesting to listen to my own show and getting the Tagalog version of the show, I would be pretty irritated. I would be expecting the English version and not the Tagalog version. So I think there's challenges there.
It probably needs to be controlled by your preferences, right? So,
Uh,
I mean, in the player experience,
yeah, let me
I
think
would
about that.
imagine.
But again, there's a disconnect because I control the media distribution and the app controls the language preference. So again, unless it was, I think you still need, it would be really cool to do it all in one feed and have the app support it. But again, Apple and Spotify and others will not. So it would be, and Overcast will not. So, how do you, I think you have to
Why
have
would they
separate.
not? Yeah, if it's done through the same technology as dynamic ad insertion,
Well, it
why couldn't
wouldn't
it be
be. It'd
done?
have to be a setting, and there would still have to be a separate feed in that language.
Hmm.
Yeah, because there's too many variables there. I can
Or,
at Blueberry,
or
I
yeah.
could redirect the media, but that's not what the listener maybe wants.
So what's the cap on how many different alternative enclosures an
There's
RSS feed
none.
could have?
There's
There isn't.
none. Yeah, you can do as many as you want.
So that would be one way of solving it
But the
potentially.
problem is again, you'll be limited to podcasting 2.0 apps that would be able to support that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in the short run, right.
And if you're
Yeah.
going to go into this and do the expense of having 11 labs create 4 or 5 versions of the show, you're probably going to want 4 or 5 different listings in different languages so that you can support the App Store in, let's say, Mexico or wherever.
Well, or you can use Google Notebook LM.
But
They're
I don't
doing it.
know. We'd have to experiment with it and see if it'll actually take a transcript and create this show in its entirety. I don't think it will. I think it summarizes this show. We give it a transcript. I think it'll create a summary of this show in English or whatever language you pick. I've only used it once, so I'd have to go back and look and see what it supports.
Yeah. And then I also know that YouTube announced about a year ago that they were going to dynamically change the audio and the video to localize the language on videos that are on their platform all around the world.
Well, when they do that, that'll be impressive. It's very expensive to do that. If
I think
Google,
I think they're already doing it with the big shows.
huh?
So it's already starting to. It's been rolling out, I think, for a while now.
As a
So
native English speaker, does me no good because I would not be able to go sample it and see if it was worthwhile or how accurate it would be. I think that's the advantage is if you can speak a couple of languages, which most people outside the United States can,
right.
right. I think that'd be a good test.
Yeah.
listen to it in the native language and see how good it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a reasonable thought. But I think that's coming, and I think we're going to see more of that. And also means that all those shows that are being done outside of the U.S. and
Yeah.
non-English language
Yeah.
will be able to be translated into English
And
too.
be honest with you, there's some Arabic shows that I've based on my trip to Saudi, I would love to listen to. There's a number of them over there that I would really like to be able to hear those stories. So I
Yeah.
think there's a desire. And if you think about leveling the playing field, it just seems like what did we do? What did we do with podcasting? We made audio accessible to for creators and listeners that was not available in any other place.
Yeah.
And if you take this to the next step, it just seems natural to me that we would be able to, create a show in 7 different languages. I think that would be, we've talked about it internally.
Hmm.
Just the cost, what is the cost to do that? Because you've got 7 media feeds, you've got 7, versions of the show, which is not a big deal. It's just metadata. Um, and then that distribution, where do you want that content listed so people aren't confused, making sure it's we'd have to really get some guidance from Apple and others on, all right, I want this to show up in the Portuguese market. How can I have it only show up in Brazil and, the countries that speak Portuguese? So how do we distribute that in that version of the show in those target countries without also annoying the people that are English speakers in Brazil that want to listen to the English version? So, there's a bunch of dynamics there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to get complicated, but I think it's going to be possible to be able to do all that. And it'll be probably pretty soon. It'll be fairly common, I would
Yeah,
think.
but it's still from an expense standpoint. I penciled it out. It's not inexpensive, especially if you have 11 labs do it.
Yeah. Right.
Because each
Yeah.
content creator would have to have an 11 labs, unless they wanted to use someone else's voice, have an
Right.
11 labs account, train, and then do the API integration for the show, which is not hard. Send the media over, then pull it back once the translated versions are. But you're paying over there, by the minute for that.
Yeah. Now, I saw another conversation that popped up that was intriguing to me. It's always through this lens of, you know, what we've seen happen over the years. And that's a big thing about this show is that we can give that perspective because we've lived it, right?
Yeah.
So it's this concept of consolidating feeds.
Oh,
And I think your one's one's initial reaction would be that it's like, well, let's just merge all of our feeds together. In the
y-
early years of podcasting, that was done to some degree. That was kind of like a, a feed that had different shows in it that would publish at different cadences, but it would just be one RSS feed that had multiple shows in it. Now, this conversation that's happening now is more to do with, let's say you have on your network, let's say you have maybe 5 different shows. So how would you, even if assuming that you can, how you would merge those into one feed, one RSS feed that would have all the episodes from a separate podcast feed all in one, right? So
yeah.
you have this technology now of creating seasons, right?
Yeah.
Or a or a mini series type of a season
Hmm.
type of an idea, right? So you could conceivably, and podcasters have done this, where you create a one master RSS feed and you just have different topic shows in each of the seasons, right? And so what this person is asking, and this is an interesting question for a podcast host, is how would you merge, let's say, 4 different RSS feeds into one and basically take each of those RSS feed content, right, and merge it into a season in another podcast feed,
Easy.
right?
PowerPress does it today.
It does it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
You just have to you have to use channels or category podcasting,
Right.
and then when you're publishing, you can really mix it up whatever way you want. So you
Mm-hmm.
could have a master feed that is, let's
It has
call it
everything in it.
category everything. As long as you select that category and have that set up as a podcast feed, everything goes into that category will show up, and then you can have the breakouts. You can have individual feeds for each show, or you set that up and then you do seasons with that specific feed. You really can mix
Right.
and match it almost any way you want.
Yeah. Though I think in the early years of podcasting, I think they called that a network feed. I think is what
Yeah, yeah,
was the
network feed.
official term for it.
Yeah.
Now the new term that I'm hearing people talk about is this concept of an umbrella feed.
Okay.
So it's kind of the same thing,
It's the
right? I
same
mean,
thing. Yeah.
it's kind of splitting hairs on that.
But I can't do that within Blueberry because we haven't enabled that within the
Man, I know
dashboard.
most podcast hosts probably can't do this.
No, but matter of fact, it's been used. Many networks have used that function in PowerPress for many years.
Yeah, to create a network feed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And we even have
And
a
then
system in Blueberry called MyCast where you can pick the shows that you want to be in a custom built RSS feed that you can subscribe to that has 20 shows, and you get a river
just
of
those shows,
just
right?
those shows, and they show up, newest episode first in the feed, and we've had that for many, many years. Matter of fact, it's trademarked. We trademark MyCast,
Hmm.
so it's a feature within the platform.
Yeah,
So,
so people are starting to think about these things, and it's an extension of what RSS is capable of doing.
oh
It's
yeah,
not
easy peasy.
it's not well known
Yeah,
that it's capable of doing
you'll
such
have
a
to
thing.
send me the link to that, and I'll respond to that. Oh, that was
Uh, yeah, it was
uh,
an article that was posted in a newsletter called Pod the North.
oh
Um, I'm not sure who
yeah, I don't
the
know either,
author
but
of this is.
it's, and I don't know what their response was and who can do that and who couldn't, but
Yeah, I'm
and it's
scrolling down
actually
to see
and it's
who
actually
the author.
pretty. It's even today is pretty common. So
Oh, it is
yeah,
still?
yeah. But I think most of the times they don't publish those to Apple Podcasts. They make the feed available to be manually subscribed to.
Oh, it's probably more of a premium podcast of
No,
sorts?
well, it could
No?
be, but it's
It could
also
be, yeah.
just the network doing what they do.
Okay. Yeah, Todd, I'll send you a link to
Yeah.
this this newsletter. It doesn't look like it has a place to comment though, but I guess
Well, maybe
it's off a
the
Substack. It's off a Substack,
oh,
so
maybe they'll listen to the show.
that would be interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a long history of this,
Hmm.
and as things happen like this, people talk as though it's a
It's
new
new.
idea.
Yeah.
It's new if you've never heard of it before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
And I think this is part of
that.
some of the stuff that Podcasting 2.0 is looking at is, and some discussions that have happened is it, I think there's super value in building niche communities and niche networks. I remember back when we built Tech Podcast, and there was so much value that people got from being part of the network and working together. And I think and again, without a financial commitment or a It was basically it was purely for promotion,
Mhm.
and working together. And there was no, most networks now are all tied to, oh, how much money you're going to pay me to be part of your network, and I think there's super value in shows aggregating up content and helping each other, even if there's no financial uh, incentive or financial agreement. Just the ability to promote each other and rise together, I think, is super valuable. And I think in today's age, it's probably becoming more valuable than other. I've got some internal pet projects I'm working on, and we're improving our. We have what's called a network feature for PowerPress, and asked the dev team to add about 8 new features to it, so they basically can have a little mini network website with all these cool functions, all these interactive functions that Podcasting 2.0 supports. So instead of just having a page where it shows the show name and the description and link to the show and the episodes, we can have it more interactive, and
Mhm.
this is be web based for sure, but there's lots of cool things that can be done right now, um, and I think podcasters have to be starting to be thinking about being more creative, with all the noise that's out there.
Yeah, I do think that we're in a time of the growth and proliferation of podcast networks. I'm seeing it in my own experience that it's just a lot more interest in that, and I think it really is grounded in this idea of support. Um, if a network can provide value and support to a creator, then um, as a replacement for having to build their own team
Mm,
per se, because I think a lot of creators now feel like they've got to hire, people to help them do everything that needs to be done because the medium is so complex now, especially if you're making money from it. If you want to build a business or with a podcast, it takes a lot of work. And I'm
yeah,
not sure that one person can really do everything. You know what I
I
mean?
think
It's
it's
not like
getting
the old days.
easier. There's a lot of stuff
Well,
that,
I mean, AI is helping, but in some
yeah.
ways, AI is a time suck too.
Oh, sure. Everything's a time suck.
Yeah.
But the
So
key
just
is the time suck getting smaller. That's the goal.
yeah, is it getting smaller? Is it getting as it gets smaller? Is are you able to maintain the same level of quality?
Yeah.
So, and what does it take to be successful as a podcaster now? And well, what is the definition of success? I think
Well,
it depends on everybody, right?
yeah, it
They
depends
have
on
a
the
different.
goal.
It depends on what everybody wants it to
And
be.
most of the times, well, I would say at least 50% of the times it's not money. So that's the other thing that, everyone wrapped around if 50% of podcasts, they have different goals, building their
Yeah,
business,
but
getting their message out.
yeah, but that is to some degree grounded in money, though.
Well, of
So
course, because if their goal is to drive business to their business, then,
right,
but again, it's an ends to a means. It's not that they are trying to find a sponsorship. So,
right. I mean, that's just one facet
yeah,
of
yeah,
this,
yeah.
right?
Or building
So
authority or whatever it may be.
right. But I think most podcasters would love to make money directly from their podcast, though. It's not like the people don't necessarily
I
want to
I talk to people
make
that have
money from
no
their show.
desire to make money from their podcast,
Right.
right? At least
But
50%.
you think it's
Oh,
50%?
absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, at least
Okay.
50%. It used to be only about 30% cared about money, but it's grown.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
years it was 70% could care less, 30% wanted to make money, and
Well,
10% could.
I mean, if you really go back to the beginning,
Nobody
making
wanted
money
to.
with your podcast was like
Yeah.
the praying to the devil or something like that in
On
the
the
early days of
5 to
podcasting.
10 calls I do a week with podcasters, it runs 50-50, you know.
Yeah, I remember back when I first started, I had ads in my show
Well, I
as a
got
podcast.
I announced my
And
book and I lost 50% of my audience because I'd sold out and took money.
yeah, well, that was the same thing happened to
Yeah.
me too. I got criticized because I had ads in my
Yeah.
content. Yeah.
Yeah. Bizarre.
So it just shows you how things have evolved and changed. You
Yep.
know, podcasting has become increasingly like the I hate to say, but commercial media. It's increasingly as radio has integrated themselves into the podcasting and been very influential in podcasting. It's taken that advertising focus into the medium. No question about it.
All right, Rob,
So
we're here at the end of the time. So next week we'll be back at our
yep,
normal time. And then the following week
great.
I'll be in London.
Okay, so
So
next Thursday at 3. Let me see.
next Wednesday at 3.
Wednesday at 3. Right.
Yeah, it's Thursday my time here, but we'll be back on normal Eastern Standard Time hours. So I'll move the
Yeah.
meeting reminder to that time.
Yeah, I have a standing podcast conversation I was going to do with somebody at 4. So on
Yeah,
that
I'm
day.
screwing your schedule up. But I'm Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on X, Geek News at geeknews.chat on Mastodon.
I can also be found on X as well at Rob Greenlee, and then on YouTube at Rob Greenlee as well, and LinkedIn at Rob Greenlee, and Instagram too. That's Rob W Greenlee. So Instagram is the last one I signed up for, so I wasn't able to get my name. So Todd,
Go ahead.
if we can go for just an hour next week, then I
That'll
can
help you.
make everything work.
Okay, that'll work. I'll let you adjust. Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. And I'll be probably jet lagged a bit anyway. So
All right.
I'm doing
Okay.
I have a couple secret new things I'm doing. I'll talk about next week. Anyway, if you look at the Blueberry YouTube channel, you'll be able to see what we're doing already. I'm doing a
okay.
podcast Mythbuster series.
Oh.
Comes
okay.
out every Friday.
Okay, I'll have to go check that
So
out.
yeah,
Todd.
and enjoy it. I think I've got 29 episodes planned.
Oh, plan. So you've done what, a couple of them now? Or?
I've got one recorded, published. Second one's recorded. Will come out Friday, but I've got 29 episodes already planned, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with busting myths.
Busting myths. Okay.
It's not Mythbusters because that's a copyright thing. So it's podcast myths.
Yeah, you and Rob Walsh.
Well, I'm not being Rob.
I know you're not being Rob, but he does the same thing around kind of like marketing of podcasts and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, this is targeted to a YouTube audience. So.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
All right, everyone.
All
Thanks
right.
for being here, and we'll see you back here next week. I'm back at 3 p.m. Eastern, I think,
Noon
right?
Pacific.
Yeah, there we
Right.
go. All right, everyone. Thanks. I'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.